Let's see. All right. So we'll give it a second because I can see there's a lot of people on there. So when we can. So how are you? How's Florida?
Hot, very hot.
Hot already?
Yes.
It's been like perfect here. It's like 75 degrees every day and beautiful. So I'm so lucky to be.
How many people are at the ranch right now?
At the ranch, we have security guards, like one maintenance, one gardener, Hervé, and I think 7 of my staff that live there full time.
Wow, that must be just so bizarre.
It is. Like I went down a couple weeks ago, and it's beautiful though. It's everything, the gardens, everything is beautiful. You see animals everywhere because there's no people, right? So
very cool.
All right, so let's go ahead and officially start.
Okay.
Welcome, Leslie. So Leslie is astrologer, a writer, and a creativity expert. And you've been to the ranch. You started the ranch about the same time I started coming to the ranch, which was like about 20 years ago, correct?
Yeah, 2000. My first class was February 2000.
Right, and I also read on your, I don't know, some interview that you did that you came in 1997 for the first time with some friends.
Yes.
Right. So let's start about you. I can't believe I read this. You've sold 2 million books.
2 million children's picture books around the world. Yes.
And how many books is that? Like 15 books? How many books did you write?
I've written 20.
You've written 20 books? Wow.
I can't illustrate it. And the amazing thing, Barry, is that I have no training in art. And most of those books were rejected. Some of them were rejected over 150 times. I was told for 13 years by every publisher that I had no talent, that I had no idea what children liked, and that I would never make it and I should quit.
But you didn't. Why didn't you?
Because I knew in my soul that I understood children really well, and I knew that I was right. So I just couldn't. It was who I am.
Right. So there's a character in your book, Tucker, right?
Yes,
Tucker.
he was my dog. Yeah.
And he teaches lessons. Is that what he does? Is that what your book says?
No, he doesn't teach any lessons.
Oh.
I have another dog, Wiggins, who I did the book with Alex Von Bitter, who's the president of the board at the ranch, on how to teach children manners. Wiggins learns his manners.
So now where did Tucker come from?
Well, he was my real life dog. So of course you draw what you have in your house, what's familiar.
Wow, that's that'd be scary for me, but okay.
Yeah.
And there's there's a book you did about that's rocks, right?
Yes. So I used to live on the beach, and I would go walking and I would find rocks in the shape of the letters of the alphabet. And that took me 10 years to find the entire alphabet. So I did a book with Random House called If Rocks Could Sing.
Wow. And what is the premise of that book?
It's just a book about nature and wonder and teaching children how to see things. So most people are walking the beach and they don't see what I see: penguins and a rhinoceros and a letter and all sorts of different things. So I believe a lot of what my life is about is trying to teach people how to see things that are invisible to others.
Right. Well, and when I was preparing to talk to you today, I watched your TED Talk again.
Good.
Your TED Talk was in 2016, the importance of being wrong.
Yes. I've been told I've been wrong my whole life, and I found out that everything that people said was wrong about me was actually the best thing about me.
Right. So maybe wrong is the word I think we should throw out of our vocabulary.
Exactly.
So one of the things that struck me when I was listening to your TED Talk is in your TED Talk, you talked about when you were looking for the rocks, how long it took you to find the K, right?
Yes, it was a great metaphor for life, because we all have something in our life that we really, really want and we can't seem to get it. And there was nothing that I could do to increase the likelihood of finding that letter K. Without it, I didn't have the alphabet. So what was I going to do, Barry? Live on the beach and just wait and wait and wait for it? It would have driven me crazy. I had to just have faith that one day I would find it. And that's pretty much the way life goes. You cannot rush Mother Nature. And then some people say, well, Leslie, you should fake it. Just take 2 rocks and glue them and make them into a K. And I said, no, you can't do that. This is an honest book.
Well, and what struck me the most is your TED Talk was in 2016. And during the TED Talk, you said that finding the K taught you how rushed we are, how we need to slow down, unplug, disconnect, and like, look what's happening right now in the world. That's exactly
Yes.
what.
Right. It's very interesting that artists and creative people, in order to be creative, you have to be moving at a slower pace, because otherwise, if you're going fast all the time, it's actually a symptom of immobility, because you're going so fast, you don't notice anything that's slower than you. And some of the most powerful things in the world are whispers, are tiny, small things. And that's why this virus, which you can't even see, and it's super tiny, slow things are very powerful. And we as humans, we can get a heck of a lot more powerful if we went that way as well. Slower, softer, quieter, whisper. That's where the magic is, if you ask me. But it's hard because speed is very addictive.
Well, in our society, especially, I mean, for me, it's like the slowdown. I didn't realize how I was going nonstop. And it's like, all of a sudden now at home, it's like, it's so nice. I work from home and I'm like, I'm going to work 2 hours right now. I'm going to go work out. I'll have lunch. I'll come back. I'll work, and maybe I'll work at 9 o'clock at night. But it's nice not to have the pressure of going, and always being somewhere. I'm getting over my FOMO for sure.
Oh, good. That's good.
Now, recently at the ranch, and I know in your life too, you wrote a new book, and that's what you've been really focusing on at the ranch lately.
Yes.
And tell us about that book.
Okay, that book is called The Power of Mercury, and it's about the astrological signature that everyone has in their chart around communication. So I created it as a little book that you have by your bedside, where you can look up any person's birth date and year and find out their communication style based on their Mercury sign. Everybody knows they have a sun sign, but that's not really that useful. Most astrology books are about sun sign. But if you can look up your Mercury sign, and you can, in my book, compare yourself with your husband, your boyfriend, your friend. Anyone who's single should have this book if they're going out into the dating world, and parents and children should have it. I've had many people at the ranch, after just one class on the power of Mercury, they come up to me and say, oh, for the first time, I understand my daughter. Like, this makes total sense. So it's a very beautiful way to have compassion for people when you understand them.
So do you think astrology is a science?
It's an esoteric science, different. So there's hard science, which is astronomy, the study of the stars and the planets. And then there's astrology, which is an esoteric science. It's based on scientific principles, but it's basically an interpretive art, not unlike acupuncture, where you could go to 20 acupuncturists and you'd get a different treatment. Some people have the magic. Some people understand these meridians and these lines, but we are electromagnetic people, humans, and the planets are giving off electromagnetic frequencies. And basically astrology is like music. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, but you can feel it, you can hear it. And a good astrologer is interpreting your piece of music for you, and your job is to just play it the best way you possibly can. So I don't believe in fortune telling at all. It's just a way of describing a person's wiring system. And so if you think of yourself as coming in with a musical score, think how incredible it would be to understand that. So if you're jazz and you live in a family that's all classical, you're going to clash with them. And it's not that you're wrong or they're right, just different.
Right. So how does that, tell me about do you have any thoughts about the current situation in the world based on astrology?
I have a lot to say about that, Barry. That's why we're talking, because I can't wait to share what I know.
Right.
So in August of 2019, I was teaching a webinar to beginner astrologers, and just a couple weeks ago, one of my students transcribed word for word what I said in August of 2019. And I said, in early 2020, we are going to have something come down upon us that is going to be so intense and so volcanic that we will have a change in our life that is so big that life as we know it will never be the same. So astrology can see patterns, just like I find rocks on the beach and I see different patterns. The planets, we are part of a cosmic system. The planets tell us the patterns that are coming. So it's like a meteorologist describing a weather. I was describing the perfect storm that was coming in early 2020. And when I was featured on Coast to Coast Radio with George Norrie in January, I talked about it as well then, and he kept pushing me to say, Leslie, what is it? What do you think is going to happen? And I said, I don't think it's an earthquake. I don't think it's a weather thing. I said, I think it has something to do with the element of air. Well, sure enough, I was pretty doggone right, because the virus attacks the lungs. That's where it goes, air. And of course, all plane travel is basically stopped. And the reason I knew that is because when I did the astrological pattern of this time, there is very little air in the chart right now. So we've all been sent home. It's like Mother Nature said to us, you guys have done a bad job taking care of this planet. Now go to your room. And so we're all stuck in our room and we're like, oh, I wonder what I've done to have caused this. Well, we've done a lot because we as humans have not been paying attention. Just like you said, Barry, you are so busy, zoom, zoom, zoom all over the place. Everyone's guilty of that. It's part of what's happened to us as humans, but it's gotten out of control. And we've lost touch with the slower rhythms of life and our connection to the earth. We are terrestrial beings, but we're also connected with what's above our heads as well. So as above, so below. And we've been living in more of a horizontal framework where those methods are no longer working for us. Even in medicine, as you know, I work with a lot of doctors right now. I can see things in a person's chart that can help a doctor see the bigger picture of a human's wiring. And it's not fortune telling at all. It's just describing a system, just like I described the weather forecast that came and is upon us right now. So this horizontal framework is not working. And we need to move into a vertical axis where we are more connected to nature under our feet, and also have a realization that we're connected to these balls, rocks in space that are floating around, and they always go at the same pace, they circle around, and we don't want to disrupt this whole beautiful cosmic system. And what's happening is we are disrupting not only what's happening to our water, to our species. You know, it used to be we'd think about the polar bears and think, oh, that's so sad. Well, guess what? That's us next. We have not taken really great care of this planet. And that's why when people go to the ranch has been a leader on this planet for a very long time because of the professor and his incredible wisdom, and Deborah and Sarah Livia keeping alive the idea of sustainability and putting your cell phone in a little sleeping bag and eating organic food. And when people come to the ranch, they slow down and they feel more alive, and they look totally different when they leave from getting off the bus. You know that look that people get when they arrive and then when they leave? We're supposed to be living more the way we do at the ranch all the time, where we have much more of a careful attention to the gardens and to what we're eating and where it comes from. And if we don't wake up, and I'm hoping we do wake up as a human species, but this is a big, giant wake-up call. I was hoping that the wake-up call would be a little bit more subtle, but this is an abrupt thing. Like all of a sudden, bang, we're locked up in our rooms, you know, in our houses. It's pretty intense for us.
I'm curious, to go back a little ways, you said you read the astrology of 2020. Is kind of.
Yeah, I was looking at the weather forecast for 2020, and I saw this configuration in the early months of 2020, and I thought, oh my gosh, this has not ever happened before. 9/11, there was something similar, but this is more intense than 9/11 because this is all over the entire planet. 9/11 just happened in the United States. So this is bigger. So it's part of our growth cycle.
So what does the weather pattern look like in 2021?
It's the most intense right now. It slowly gets better. But I've talked with some doctors that I know in the functional medicine world. And a lot of people don't even know what functional medicine is. Do you know what it is, Barry?
I have an idea.
Okay, so functional medicine is looking at the entire body. It's not just treating the symptoms. So functional medicine doctors are, I think, the leading edge of thought in the way medicine is done. They're Western trained, they can prescribe, but they're looking at the whole system. So I've been working with Dr. Pat Hopkins out of the Greater Boston Functional Medicine Group, and she believes that this virus is going to be with us for another year or two.
You mean until there's a vaccine, or it's just gonna hang in there?
Yeah, until they find a vaccine that actually works too. That's a whole nother thing.
Right. There was what was the psychic? I think her last name was Brown, who predicted in the same thing in 2020 there was going to be this huge virus.
Yeah, Sylvia Brown. She's an astrologer, but she predicted. But she said it would go away just as quickly as it appeared.
Right, she did, and then
I don't know about that.
In 10 years, but it hasn't gone away quickly.
What I do is different. I'm actually looking at the sacred geometry. I'm looking at the patterns. Okay, so it's just like looking at the patterns in nature. You can read the tree trunk of a tree and read the patterns of that tree's life.
Right.
And then you read the patterns in the sky for the weather, and you can sort of determine what the hurricane season will be for this summer in the state of Florida. That's what an astrologer is doing too. We're looking at the cosmic patterns, and the cosmic patterns are actually reflected here on Earth. And the reason why this makes sense at a scientific level, and that's why I say astrology is science, but it's an esoteric science, is that you look at the moon, and someone could say, well, that's just a ball, of rock up in the space. But it actually controls every body of water on this Earth, and we're 90% water. There's a correlation with what that moon is doing and what's happening here on life. And anyone can tell you that during a full moon, things are more heightened, and that's because the moon is pulling on the water, pulling on our bodies. And it's why in the garden I've taught at the cooking school about biodynamic farming. Most people don't realize what that is. It's like super organic, and that's what the ranch has there. It's basically based on planting according to the cycles of the moon. And when you put a seed in the ground during the full moon, the water from the ground is more potent because of the moon pulling on it. So things tend to grow better during those times. So it's about 20% more powerful than just regular organic farming.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And you taught that at the ranch, right?
Yes, I've taught it several times. Yeah. That's trying to get people to understand that food and vegetables and everything, that we're all connected. We can't say we're not connected to a worm or a lion or a polar bear. We're all connected. And I don't think you realize that I have a long history with the ranch. Even before going there in 1997, I would say probably it was 1992. I was in Mallorca, Spain, working on an Earthwatch project. We were making a bird sanctuary out of this little park. And basically what we were studying were the indicator species. And that's when I learned that you have to study frogs and the little guys, because they're the ones where the problems first start showing up. But anyway, Sarah Livia was there on that project with me. And she would sit around the campfire with me talking about Rancho La Puerta. And back then, I was in my early 30s. I wasn't really thinking about spas, but how perfect that the two of us back then were studying these things that right now are really still very important. They were important then, and now they're even more important now.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
It's great, but in a interesting, crazy way, right? So,
yeah. And then if you want to hear another crazy good story about the ranch, so you asked about my teaching there. So when I first came in 1997, Grandfather Raven was there. Do you remember him?
Of course, he was there when I started as a guest instructor. Yeah.
So he was wonderful. And one of the things that I want to talk about right now with people is what Grandfather Raven taught me. I spent quite a bit of time with him, is that these indigenous cultures, they understood very wise things about how to take care of this planet. And they thought ahead. They were the ones who would say we have to think about 7 generations out. Right now, we're thinking about what can I get for myself right now? I'm not going to worry about what's coming later. So Grandfather Raven, back then in 1997, he used to do this thing of throwing sticks and stones and bones, and he would intuitively tell you things about your life. And he said, Leslie, you're going to be teaching at the ranch. You're going to be coming here a lot. And I said, Grandfather Raven, what am I going to teach? I've never taught in my life. He said, I don't know, but you're coming back and you're going to be teaching here. And it's why I started to think about a class to teach. And it took me a couple of years, but then finally got to teach, and I've been coming ever since.
That is great. And tell them what's behind you there on the shelf.
Oh, my pigs that I won in bingo. There are 4 of them there. That's a pretty good haul, right?
It's a good haul for sure. Now, someone just sent a question. They wanted to know if you have any of your little letter rocks with you right now.
I don't have, I could hold them up. I could go get them, but you don't want me to go get them.
Do you have your book?
Just to buy the book.
Show me, do you have your book with you? Do you have your Mercury book with you?
Yeah, here, I'll get that. Let's see. Well, here's the rock book.
It's awesome, yeah.
So.
And so
I think I have pants on. I just realized when I got up.
That's why I can't get up. So it makes it more exciting for me. So I want to back to your book to let's lighten it up just a little. The Mercury retro book, and you said everyone should have it, and it's super easy. You can just look up your birthday.
Yes.
So for fun, for the people watching, tell them something about me based on my birthday.
Oh wow! Well, how honest do you want me to be?
No, you can just look it up and tell. Maybe something really positive about me naturally, right?
Of course. Yeah, everything with you is going to be glowing. But you and I, one thing, we're both from the same planet.
Yeah, we have very similar charts. I remember that.
I have very similar charts, and we're just both, indescribable, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so Barry, unfortunately, I need to know your year to look up because I don't remember it.
August 16th, 1964.
Okay, August 16th, 1964. August 16th.
On the Zoom call can send me your
Okay, so you have your Mercury sign is Virgo, and that means that you have an exalted placement there. Your brain is very organized. It's very Virgo-like, which is particular. You like things to be a certain way, and you're going to show up on time, and it's a very practical, earthy, good thing. It's the highest placement anyone could ask for in terms of value. It's considered a blessing to have that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for saying that. Also, someone just sent a question asking, is there anything that you recommend the people eat to boost their immune system right now based on some of the stuff we've been talking about?
I'm a big believer in vitamin D, 5,000 milligrams a day. I think that we should all be doing that. I think most of us, I live in Florida, and I was deficient in vitamin D. You get a lot of sun, but we have to understand that our soil, and it's not as healthy as it used to be. And you now have to eat like 10 apples to get the nutrition out of what used to be in 1 apple. So I believe we do need to add extra things to our food. I just did a interview with Dr. Pat Hopkins, and she's on my YouTube channel talking about different things we can do. She has this spray that she suggests people get. It's called hypochlor something or other. You can go on the YouTube thing, and she's got some really great suggestions. But in terms of food, number 1 thing she said is don't eat a lot of sugar. Sugar always will lower your immune system. And obviously, I think it's ironic that there's now like a meat shortage. Well, guess what? The ranch has been saying that for a long time to go more plant-based. So that makes a ton of sense as well. I think also people should be taking zinc every day. That's a big one.
How about, do you have advice for people, since this virus is going to be around a while, any emotional advice for people, or what can they do? That was one of the questions that just came across. What could people do since this is going to be around for a while?
Yeah, it's really tough. I think there is only one solution. And this is going to sound crazy, but it works. You need to be in nature, sitting on the earth or barefoot or in it, not just walking on the pavement thinking you're outside. So I live on a nature preserve, and after being on the computer all day, I have to go out into the nature preserve and go sit under a pine tree. And I literally, Barry, can feel my entire being, my whole everything just kind of change. And I feel so much better. And now I crave going out there. I'm lucky that I can do that because where I live, there's a lot of nature around me. We have it at the ranch. It's why we feel better at the ranch, because we are getting off the computer more when we're there. So a lot of people would say emotionally, get on these Zoom calls, call your friends, talk. I think that that's great to a degree, but we're still in this two-dimensional world and we're still on technology, and it's not really good for me. It wires me up in a way that's not healthy. And I remember, this is interesting fact, when I first got a computer, I was in my early 30s, and I would get so excited to go in and check my email. And when I would drive to my studio, I would feel all this creativity, what I was going to do with art and writing. And that's when I was doing art and writing full time. And I'd get to my studio and I'd get on the computer and all of my creativity would go away. And I'd sit at my desk. I thought, where did it go? I had it, when I was driving, and now it's gone. And I realized the computer had zapped it out of me. So back then, I'm in my early 30s, I realized, in order to be creative and be back to my place, because when we're on the computer, we're like this. And then when you're in nature, you're like in alignment. So I'd go out, walk in the woods, come back, and I realized I had to stay off the computer in order to feel better, in order to feel that flow. So I think in order to emotionally handle this difficult time, you have got to figure out a way to really be in nature. And I mean, like, get your butt on the earth, lie on the grass, walk barefoot. You have to really allow it to sink into you. It's similar to what they say about being in the ocean, that the salt water and the way that the ocean makes you feel, it changes your whole electromagnetic system. And there's this whole thing about earthing. Have you heard about that, Barry?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We're talking about
we would love to incorporate that more into the ranch. And when the ranch does reopen, I'm trying to find ways to have more and more classes and activities outside so that we can be in nature more. Because the ranch is a great place to be in nature for sure.
Yeah, you know what I used to do years ago at the ranch? I used to do this exercise where people would pair up and I would blindfold one person and the other person had to show them the world for 15 or 20 minutes. And it's a game changer. You have to put your trust in another person, but all of a sudden you feel things and you touch things and you hear things. When you lose one of your senses, everything becomes more heightened. So I think that's a fantastic idea to do more of that at the ranch. Not that you need to blindfold them like I just said, but there's something about nature that we as humans have become a little disconnected. And I think that this virus is a giant wake-up call to get into an understanding that we're part of a bigger system and that we are connected to the planets and we are connected to the ocean and we're connected to the worms and everything.
Yeah, and someone just asked, what about meditation? What about yoga? And personally for me, I've been committed to meditating every morning, and now I'm at home. This is my 8th week at home, and it definitely at the same level as what you're talking about. Meditation helps you connect with who you are on the inside, and I mean that can only be it, and it helps you to connect to everything. And like being in nature, like you realize that you are part of it. We're all the same. We're all part of the same big picture. So I think, what do you think about meditation yoga?
I'm a yoga fanatic. I love it. I think it's hugely important, especially for your spinal cord. As we get older, if your spine isn't in good shape, it doesn't matter what else you do. That's the most important part of your body. I actually believe that, you know, when they say listen to your gut or try to figure out what's going on, I think if you can think about the base of your spine where you have that fluid, the cranial sacral fluid, I think the base of your spine is where your power is, and that's where if you ask yourself a question, should I go left or should I go right? Try to think about the base of your spine and what that's telling you. So yeah, yoga is incredible. Meditation is great. I think that there's a way to also do a movement meditation if you're out in nature, to be like silent, not on your phone, just walking. It doesn't have to be just sitting. I mean, I'd be happy if people meditated every day under a tree. I was told, I don't know if it's true or not, that trees love negative energy. So if you're ever really upset, they like to soak it up. That's why people maybe used to hug trees. I don't know, but try it. If someone's really upset with this virus, and there are a lot of people who feel very alone, very cut off, very frightened. We've lost community. We've lost even faces. We go to the store now, we don't even see a face. We don't know if someone's smiling or not. It's very creepy. And masks, you know, when we were kids watching TV, you know, the robbers would have masks on. You know, when you can't see someone's face, right, there's a part of us that's like, oh, is that person scary? Now everyone, you look, oh my God, are they going to give me the virus?
Right.
It's a very strange thing that's happening to us as humans. So what my neighbors are doing now is everyone brings a lawn chair and you sit, you know, in a big grassy open area. People are talking to each other that have never met before, and they've lived here for like 10 years.
Yeah, I was walking outside the other day. It's just funny. I saw these two ladies sitting in chairs talking to each other, and they literally had a measuring tape between them so everyone could see that it was 6 feet, which was very funny. Before we go, I have like a final thought. Is something that you said to me once in a workshop that especially right now, is that creativity and joy, if you can go back to when you were a kid, what made you?
That's my secret for life, Barry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have been doing a lot of that on this time that I've had to stop being a grown-up and start thinking about what used to make me really happy, because I'm the same person inside. My outside is just starting to look a little different, you know?
Barry, you look very young for your age, of course.
Well, I hate when people always say for your age, but yes, thank you very much. So Leslie, someone asked really quickly, can you repeat where they can get your books and maybe the names of, well, the name of your book is Mercury and Retro, is that right?
No, it's called The Power of Mercury.
Oh, The Power of Mercury, okay. And
Mercury, and that's published by HarperCollins, and If Rocks Could Sing. And all of my Tucker books, you can find them at any, well, if a bookstore is open, of course, you can go to Amazon. And then the book I did about manners is called Wiggins Learns His Manners.
Right, but they can also just look you up and have access to all that, right?
Yeah, it's just my name, LeslieMcGuirk.com, and I also have a new YouTube channel where I'm interviewing what I call wayfarers, people who are helping us find our way. I just came back from teaching in Tahiti on a Paul Gauguin cruise ship, and I learned a lot about the Polynesian navigators, and they were wayfinders. They did it all using the stars and the planets, and they were more skilled than like Captain Cook and all the Europeans who had all their instruments. So there is a lot of ancient wisdom in understanding our connection to the planets and the stars. So I thought it'd be really great. I have so many interesting people in my life that have a lot of wisdom. So I've interviewed Ludwig Max Fischer, who's doing the biography of the professor. He has a ton of great information. I just interviewed Dr. Pat Hopkins, and I just interviewed Janine Driver, who's a body language expert. She gives really great tips about how to be on a Zoom call and what wearing masks are doing to us as a human species. And who knows, Barry, maybe I'll interview you for your wisdom.
I hope so. And I can't wait to see you back at the ranch. So I'm sure we'll post on the website the minute we're open and we have you back up at the ranch, and we're hoping to open hopefully in the near future.
I'm supposed to be there on my birthday on July 18th. So
Well, hopefully, knock on wood, right? I hope so.
Yeah, I just realized I have my book right here.
There it is. There it is. Anyone has to get it, right? Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you for
Welcome.
the show today. And I will see you guys on Thursday with Deborah. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
I will see you soon. I look forward to great seeing you.
Bye.